You need to know how to comp, especially if you want to get called for jam sessions or gigs. Soloing alone is not going to cut it, but comping can be tricky, especially when it comes to rhythm and making it all sound like music. In this video, I'm gonna share advice from famous jazz guitarists and also show you 3 powerful exercises to improve your comping, because you need to focus on rhythm and telling a story with the chords so that you don't end up sounding like a robot mindlessly playing a chord progression. Rhythm is of course very important, and I'll get to that, but I think this advice from Peter Bernstein is maybe even more important.
Enough is you have to practice comping. You know, for every 100 choruses you play, are you soloing 99 and comping once just to make your backing track, and then you solo 99 choruses?
This seems obvious, but I'm not sure how many people actually practice comping. I suspect it's often just I reel on and then soloing. And when I was studying jazz, then I was often asking my teachers about exercises for comping, and it is a bit surprising that playing like this and these exercises were not used in the lessons. Now, there are 2 ways that I like to practice comping. One I do pretty much daily, and then one that I'll do once in a while. The main workout for improving your comping is simple but incredibly effective. Put on a metronome, set it to 2 and 4, and comp through songs that you know really well. Focus on hearing the groove, making everything connect musically, and keep it interesting. Peter Bernstein's advice about getting bored with your comping is spot on.
Try to play chorus after chorus of comping a tune, because the main thing is that you're going to get bored of playing the same chords very quickly and find some other stuff.
Use that boredom as a motivation to come up with new ideas, and of course, start listening to music for inspiration. I'll return to the topic of listening as a way to learn later. While you play, you'll likely find spots where you want to stop and explore new possibilities, and that's actually great. Take a moment to try out new solutions and then get back to comping through the track to maintain the flow. Another way that I work on comping is by using drum loops. My favorite app is Drum Genius, but I think really any drum loop will work. Just keep in mind that iReal Pro may not be ideal for developing strong swing feel. The benefit of Drum Genius is that you can log in with the groove of that loop and even react to the accents in it, which makes the exercise more dynamic and musical. Practicing like this is about getting better and more flexible with comping, and it will help you open up what you can do with stuff that you already know. But how about learning more rhythms? And I also want to talk about why you should not try to only learn chords and comping. If you want to improve your comping rhythms, then the first step is to simplify. Get rid of other aspects of playing chords so that you can focus entirely on rhythm. Limitation is often the key to developing a musical skill, and many students get caught up in voicings, notes, or God forbid, voice leading while comping. Now, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but thinking about voice leading while also trying to comp has ruined a lot of music. Stuff like that is something you think about while practicing. Here are 3 exercises to help you focus on rhythm, each building on the previous one, and you should practice them in this order for the best results. Start by playing just rhythm, no notes, mute the strings, and concentrate on the groove and rhythmic feel as you play through a song. No notes, just rhythm. To make it easier to hear the progression, I've added a walking bass line in the example. This approach allows you to hear the song structure clearly without worrying about the chords, and as you can hear, you're still comping, you're still playing those rhythms and interacting with the music. Next, add in the simplest chords possible. Just the 3rd and the 7th of each chord. These 2-note shell voicings outline the harmony while keeping things simple, and this lets you focus on locking in your rhythm without getting distracted by note choice, and it really sets you up for more advanced comping later. Finally, start adding more notes to your chords while maintaining rhythmic creativity and precision. This step challenges you to balance harmony and rhythm in a way that sounds natural and really keeps the music in there. Let me know in the comments if you have tried exercises like these or have variations of this type of practice that you think are great. I have a confession to make. When it comes to soloing, I've gained a lot from learning solos by ear and playing along with recordings, something I still do when I practice. But I haven't done this as much with comping, only a few times to be honest. And I have to admit that when it comes to comping, I've always been more inspired by piano players than guitarists.
What?
My approach to comping is less about detail, but it's still very useful, and listening to jazz is always useful. Zooming in too much can make it impossible to understand what is really happening. Instead of thinking about which brand of piano is being dropped from the roof, get out of the way so it doesn't hit you. It's not about whether there's a flat 13 on that dominant chord, it's about the overall phrasing, how it interacts with the other musicians, and how it sits in the music. Rather than getting bogged down in the details, try listening more broadly to what's happening. Now, I can't give you long examples here without getting copyright problems on YouTube, but let's just listen to 2 recordings that really illustrate a solid approach to comping. Oscar Peterson is definitely a favorite of mine, also when it comes to comping. In fact, everybody should listen to Oscar Peterson and listen to how much space he leaves when he's comping for Sonny Stitt, and maybe try to also pay attention to the rhythms that he's using. So it's really about playing sort of short stabs with the chords so that he's not getting in the way. And most of the time he's also playing offbeat. He's not very much on the beat in this case. Wynton Kelly is another favorite of mine, and of course also a master comper. On Dig This, listen to how he really listens for the gaps in the solo and also creates phrases that are longer, that stretch across several bars while he's comping for Hamp Mobley on this B-flat blues. So you can really hear how he's sort of waiting for there to be a little bit of space in the solo, and then he'll play something with a longer chord. And for the rest, similar to what Oscar Peterson was doing, he's kind of sticking to playing offbeat and playing these short chord stabs. Spending time listening like this can teach you a lot, not necessarily by copying exactly what they play, but by identifying the elements that you like and want to incorporate into your own playing. Now, of course, you can write things out if that helps you, but don't let transcription take up more time than actually comping. As Peter Bernstein pointed out, real work happens when you're playing. And that takes us to the next exercise category. And here's some great advice from Nia Felder.
You're not just playing chords. You're not thinking of it as, just feeding chords to a soloist. You're thinking of it as you're playing the song.
There are great techniques for connecting phrases in music, and the way you think about it is as a melody, just like Nia Felder said. And this is also one of the reasons that you don't want to only learn to play chords and comp. You also need to spend time soloing and playing melodies, because those skills will improve your comping. In fact, you need them to be good at comping. Now, if you want to improve your comping skills, it's all about listening, especially listening to the most important person for this process, yourself. Now, I'm joking a bit, of course, but the key to tying together phrases, whether it's in solos or comping, is listening to the phrase that you just played and using it to shape the next one. I'll first show you how these skills sound in action, and then I'll give you a way to develop them. Now, when it comes to comping, rhythm is often melody, and a great way to start developing this is by working with riffs, repeating patterns that run through the song, often with variations added at strategic points. Something like this. So here you have a 1-bar pattern like this, and then that's being repeated throughout the form, and back, and then you get that conclusion in bar 4. Wynton Kelly does this frequently in his playing. That's definitely a good resource to check out. You can also loosen it up and be a little bit less strict. I start with a similar phrase, but now with a chromatic passing chord. And immediately when it repeats the first time on the next chord, then I'm changing it a little bit. Just adding an extra note. And of course, then when I return to B-flat 7, then I'm changing the rhythm a little bit more. And then you get this conclusion. This approach allows the melody to evolve naturally while still making the phrases into a story. Now, another technique is to think of the phrases as conversations, where one phrase responds to the other rather than evolving directly from it, what is usually referred to as call response. Thinking like this will give you comping that works, but notice how voice leading is not important at all, and it will probably stop you from playing like this. The easiest way to have a difference between the call and the response phrases is to use a different range, a different register. And that's also what I'm doing here, even though that can be difficult with comping. So the first part is kind of low. And then I'm moving up for the response to have sort of this clear difference. Back to the original call, just in a variation. And then again moving up for response. And thinking like this makes it a lot easier to start developing phrases using this technique. Since this is about listening to yourself, then a great exercise is to practice it out of time. For riff or motivic development, try this. Play a phrase for a bar, stop, and then think about what might work as a next phrase or next riff. You can start with this. Now, listening to this phrase, I just have to think about what I hear next. You can actually just play the same melody on the E flat 7. But you could also just move it up a little bit and then get something like this. Or have a phrase that sort of turns around the melody so that it moves the other way. And as you keep on doing this, then you start to also hear how this would continue, what the next phrase would be, and you start to get a longer form, something like this. Improving your comping is just one piece of the puzzle. There are plenty of other skills to develop, but some exercises will waste your time without getting you anywhere. Now, if you want to avoid those and focus on the exercises that can truly transform your playing, then check out this video where I break down efficient exercises and point out a few others that will really waste your time. Don't spend hours on pointless exercises. Focus on what works and start making some real progress. Learn jazz, make music.